Welcome back. The Commission for Gender Equality was keeping a close eye on the polls today. Members of the Chapter 9 institution were at voting stations around the country to check that there was no gender discrimination preventing people from exercising their right to vote. Tamara Mathebula is the chairperson of the Commission, and she joins me now via Zoom from Pretoria. Tamara, very good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. In your press statement, you said the CG, you've got a mandate to protect and promote the rights of citizens to gender equality. That's why you are observing these elections today. First of all, what did you observe in terms of your first objective?
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers out there. Yes, we were spread out in all 9 provinces as the Commission for Gender Equality, both commissioners and staff members. And what we observed basically today was to really look at how we could look at promoting the rights of people during the election period, the people who have the right to go and cast their votes in different polling stations. I think that's the first objective. And we had to look at the fact that they do this without any impediments, and those impediments could be anything that relates to, gender inequalities that are still out there, or gender discrimination, and those discrimination, be it discrimination whilst they are in the queues, outside the voting stations, or discriminated inside the voting stations themselves on the basis of gender. But most of the things that we really observed today was the voter turnout in terms of both male, female, young people themselves. And I think there was a bit of a concern in terms of young people participating in these 2021 local government elections. So the voter turnout of young people was not really satisfactory. And I think that can be attributed to quite a number of issues, especially young women, young men who are either did not register to vote in their big numbers, and or it's because they did not get enough education, and education that actually tells that they have their rights to actually go and cast their votes, and their votes will speak for themselves. Yeah.
Tamara, I'm curious, you obviously had observers in the rural areas. We've got a lot of reporters everywhere, but we can't be everywhere. Was there a difference when you look at urban stations, voting stations, and your rural stations in terms of the voter apathy that we're seeing?
Yes, there was huge differences between the urban and rural voting stations. I actually visited both urban and rural myself, and rural in the fact that the one that I visited was in the farms down in Cullinan, where we actually noticed that in the rural areas the voting stations were not equipped in such a way that they have enough material, there is enough officers, and really, even you could tell that in rural areas people would walk distances to the voting stations, and there was no transport provided. And again, what we also realized was that besides capacitating these stations adequately and equally to those that are in urban areas, those voting stations were not actually accessible for the people who are persons with disabilities, women who are pregnant, men, older men, and all of those. So those were some of our concerns, and many people were actually turned away because they were registered somewhere, and only to find that when they get to the voting stations, their names did not appear, and after traveling such long distances. So those were some of the issues that we observed, and we are definitely have written a report that we are going to share with the IEC in terms of our findings in those rural settings.
We've been getting complaints of this new system, the VMD, that the IEC is using for the first time in any election. What are your thoughts on this system? It seems to have slowed a lot of things down. Did you note that? Did any of your observers note that?
Yes, most of the observers that went out there locally and international observers actually noted the system that has actually slowed the process down. I know that we were used to using zip machine, and now, this new technology basically, and I'm not too sure whether it was because perhaps the system is quite new. People are not properly trained to actually use the new system. And these are some of the things that we noticed. Not only the system itself, but I think also the delivery of the ballot papers as well as the ballot boxes was one of the things that actually slowed things a bit down. In fact, not even a bit down, a lot down. I think we lost quite a number of hours whilst we're struggling with the system or waiting for the delivery of the material to these voting stations today.
All right. Well, you'll send your report through, as you said, to the IEC. Thank you so much for talking with us. Tamara Mathebula, she's the chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality. They were out there observing the municipal elections, of course.